The Italian Wine Podcast is introducing a new donation drive this month. It's called Why Am I a Fan? We are encouraging anyone who tunes in on a regular basis to send us your 10-second video on why you are a fan of our podcast network or a specific show. We will then share your thoughts with the world with the goal of garnering support for our donation drive. Italian Wine Podcast is a publicly funded, sponsor-driven enterprise that needs you in order to continue to receive awesome free wine edutainment 7 days a week. We are asking our listeners to donate to the Italian Wine Podcast by clicking either the GoFundMe link or the Patreon link found on italianwinepodcast.com. Remember, if you sign up as a monthly donor on our Patreon, we will send you a free IWP t-shirt and a copy of the Wine Democracy book, the newest Mama Jumbo Shrimp publication. Welcome to this special Italian Wine Podcast broadcast. This episode is a recording off Clubhouse, the popular drop-in audio chat. This Clubhouse session was taken from the Wine Business Club and Italian Wine Club. Listen in as wine lovers and experts alike engage in some great conversation on a range of topics in wine. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through italianwinepodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. And remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in. Welcome to Ambassador's Corner. My name is Joy Livingston. I'm standing in for Stevie Kim, and this is the show where we have our ambassadors and wine lovers all over the world choosing their favorite producer and conducting an interview. And it is actually our most popular show. It gets posted onto the Italian Wine Podcast site and it becomes very, very popular. So it's our most popular show. So we absolutely love it and we appreciate everyone who takes part, of course. So I am going to, Joan Harnish, who I will introduce you in just a second, but you're going to be interviewing Caterina Chiacchiarini Sartarelli. Sorry, I'm very sorry if I got that wrong.
Is that how I say it too?
You got it right.
And it's from the Sartarelli winery. So Joan, you are from San Francisco. I think we did this last time. San Francisco Bay Area. In California, you now live in Spain, south of Barcelona, in the Priorat area, and you are the mom of 3 kids. Yeah, your husband's from Barcelona, so I guess that explains why you're in Barcelona.
Right.
You are a dual MBA, MIM, Masters in Business Admin, and Masters in International Management, and you specialize in marketing and corporate events management. You're Certified Sommelier, WSET or Diploma graduate, and a Weinakademiker. And you're, of course, most importantly to us, you're a member of the VIA community. So, and a climate change activist. Okay, so I'm going to say hello now to Caterina. Are you there?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Great.
Thank you.
Everything's great. So before we get started, I just wanted to make sure that I could hear you.
Yes.
Before we get started, Joan, why did you choose Caterina and her winery, Sartarelli?
Oh, well, I chose Sartarelli Winery and Caterina to interview due to their eye on respecting nature through their viticultural practice and their family traditions. This year is their 50th anniversary, and it is dedicated to their grandmother with her name and story on a new wine.
Awesome. And can you tell me what you would like the audience to take away from this conversation, the learning points?
Sure. My learning objectives are the following. Firstly, to help the audience better understand Italy's Verdicchio production. Secondly, to understand the Sartarelli winery's history, tradition, and innovation based upon their care, future, love, and respect for viticulture. And thirdly, to understand how the Sartarelli family winery differentiates and distinguishes its viticulture of Verdicchio Vineyards.
Cool. All right. So that's awesome. I'm going to mute myself in a moment, and then at the end of the conversation, hopefully there will be some questions. But I'll come back and figure that out. So go ahead, Joan. Take it away.
Okay, great. Well, I discovered the Sartarelli winery while I was traveling last summer with wine colleagues through Croatia, and we covered over to the Marque. Um, and I just wanted to mention the Verdicchio vineyards of the Castillos de Jesi are in the province of Ancona, within the Marche region of central eastern Italy along the Adriatic Sea. And it's absolutely stunning, beautiful. The numerous hilltop villages have their own medieval fortresses and look like beautiful balconies, offering breathtaking views of the stunning landscape. And the river valley cuts through limestone, as well as cooling sea breezes blowing up the valleys from the coast, which gives the Verdicchio vineyards very good acidity and structure for lengthy aging. And the Verdicchio de Castelli di Jesi is also referred to as the white Barolo because of its complexity, its delicacy, its longevity, and high quality. So the wines of Sartarelli Winery are world class. They're beautifully aromatic, fresh when young, yet also capable of developing over many years in a bottle. So I would love to introduce to all of you Caterina Chiacchiarini Sartarelli. Unfortunately, her father, Patricio, had something come up and he can't be with us this evening, but Caterina is ready to go. So I'll just give you a little bit of her biography to let you know who she is. Caterina studied at the Betriebswirtschaftslehre, hope I said that well, BWL in economics in the German language at the Ludwig Maximilians Universität in München, Germany. She traveled to Ireland and England every summer since she was 14 years old. And she speaks Italian, English, French, and German, as well as some Norwegian. She has worked in human resources in München at the Italian petrol company Egib Eni, and also 4 years in New York at the Mediterranean Shipping in traffic and other departments. She has also worked as a translator and interpreter. And then she joined the Sartarelli team in 2011 and works in export and marketing. Caterina loves the wine business, the wine world, and the people in the wine environment. Welcome, Caterina.
Thank you very much, Joan. Thank you. Thank you for having me, really. Thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure. Well, I guess we should get going. We have a lot of questions here for you. So why don't we just take off with our first question? Let's see. With 3 generations of wine growing in your family history, Caterina, please tell us how it all began.
First of all, thank you very much. Just briefly, I would like to say hi to everyone and
Okay, super.
thank you again for having me, and thanks to John, to Laika, Joy, and Stevie. And of course, like, my father was not here, but he says hi to everyone. So, like, on behalf of him, my family, and the Sartarelli team, thank you very much again for having me. We're really proud to be here. So back to your question, everything started back in 1972. That's actually the year when the winery was founded. But let's say that even before that official date, there was something going on. That means that was really my grandfather's passion to make wine. So back in the 50s, actually, after the Second World War, he decided to go to Argentina to invest his money over there because he wanted to make wine. But then his future in-laws told him not to go because otherwise he would have never married his future wife. That's what really happened. So he didn't go and stayed. So he had a bakery, a patisserie, and he had other factories. He has always been a man ahead of his times. But he really had this big passion for wines. So what he decided to do back in 1972 was to start this new business, this winery, and which was really like for him like a side business, a big passion, a hobby. And that's when my father, actually his son-in-law, joined him back in 1976. And they started to help each other and to grow the business together, sharing the dream actually of making Verdicchio a very well-known variety, because back at the time, Verdicchio was not very well-known, it was more kind of undervalued. And then in 1990, at our grandfather's death, That's when actually when our parents, Donatella and Patrizio, decided to leave everything in order to dedicate themselves actually full time to this business, which then became, of course, with the passage of time, the main business. And so our father is actually convinced, was and still is, and so we are actually, that following the path of our grandfather, so his father-in-law, would have been the right thing to do. And so that's what we did, actually, always focusing on Verdicchio. And then my brother Tommaso and I, we both joined the team back in 2011. Me, I had already started, finished my experiences and so on. But the philosophy is always the same, one of our grandfather first and then of our parents. So same passion, we will continue to follow the same path, of course. And it's quite nice actually, because we started at that time with 12 hectares, and now today we have like 55 hectares, which is about 135 acres. And it's interesting because we have 5 different wines, all of them made out of Verdicchio. And yeah, so that's how we started. And today we have a very good and skilled team that we are very proud of, made up of very good co-workers, and commitment is, and the constant dedication are 2 very important words for us, of course.
Okay, that's wonderful how this all began with your family and the tradition. Caterina, can you tell us about the landscape of the Marche region and the geography and terroir of your specific vineyards in Castelli-Jesi?
Yes, of course. Let's say, especially, actually, let me start in this way. Especially for all those people who have never been to the region, or maybe like for the ones, like that we don't see each other, we don't have pictures or videos to show. It's not a video call, so of course it's like different to explain. So let me try to explain this way. Like, have you ever thought of how it would feel to be in the hills? In the middle of a beautiful sunflower field, sitting under an olive tree, surrounded by vineyards, with a wonderful view of the sea and the mountains in the distance waiting for you to go hiking. So, like, I'm asking you that actually because if you visualize this, it's actually you're visualizing you can see our region. This is really how our region is made.
Beautiful.
And yeah, and it's really like a beautiful, I mean, you were there, John, and it's really like a
Yes, it is gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
beautiful region, like definitely not very well known. It's where we are exactly, like in the region of Castelli di Jesi. It's like a hilly area with all these gentle rolling hills. And exactly the Marche region is this tiny region in central Italy. Just 500,000 people live there, so still very small. And in this scenario, actually, Verdicchio has always been a very, very important vine of our region, because Verdicchio is one of the most ancient Italian vine varieties, and it is considered an indigenous one because it can be planted and cultivated all in this area. Let's say that potentially, actually, it could grow everywhere. It could grow in any other region, but here there are the perfect microclimate conditions, soil conditions, and even the sun exposures, thanks to which the vine variety can find the ideal conditions and grow in such a way that it can develop those particular characteristics, thanks to which then it can be recognized as Verdicchio as such worldwide. And Verdicchio is quite interesting, if you just allow me to explain why it is called Verdicchio. Verdicchio because it comes from verde, which means green in Italian. And it's
Mm-hmm.
called green actually for 2 reasons. First of all, because the grapes during the ripening process, they always stay a little bit greenish, and also because in the wine, in the glass of wine, you have these greenish nuances, which are typical of Verdicchio. And
Mm-hmm.
second, which is also very important, because Verdicchio is a kind of vine which actually is very flourishing. Like until the 4th row, actually, it's not fertile. That's why it's a vine which really grows very high. But if you just let it grow, it would just be so flourishing and cover the entire land. That's why it's called Verdicchio, because it's, it really comes from verde green. And of course, it's called of the castles of Jesi, because as exactly you were saying, on each hill used to stand, still stands nowadays, a castle from the Middle Age. We call them castles, but they are actually walled cities, like with proper, with thousands of people living in. And during the Middle
Yeah.
Age, all these castles were conquered by the castle, which then became the main one, called Jesi.
Mm-hmm.
And the vineyards, actually, in our area, the soil is mostly made of clay, sand, and silt. But then, of course, depending on where you are, depending on the exposure of the vineyard, depending on how close the vineyard is to the seaside or not, because we should not forget that we do have a bigger influence by the winds coming from the sea, because we're about 20 kilometers, 25 kilometers from the sea. Like, of course, the composure of the soil can change. But we are actually, as Sartarelli, our vineyards are in the hills at an average altitude of about from 820 to 1149 feet above the sea level, and we are exactly right in the middle between the Apennines, so the mountain chain on the back, and the Adriatic Sea. And this is really very important because it's a kind of sheltered area, and especially in this particular moment with climate change, it's really very important to be there. It helps.
Wonderful. Yes, it's a stunning area, and the wines as well are fabulous. A great area for enoturismo, wine tourism as well. So, Caterina, the Sartarelli Winery, or your family as viticulturists, tell us how that you differentiate and distinguish the quality of your grapes from other competitors in the market.
That's a good question, actually, a very good question. Let's say, let me answer you maybe with one of the words which are very important for us and on which our philosophy is based, which is care.
Okay.
Care is really fundamental for the vineyards. We treat the vineyards and the grapes the best we can, of course, and we take very good care of them. And we always done, of course, also in the past, like following the philosophy of our father, which is actually the wine is made in the vineyards, which is absolutely true because everything starts from there.
Correct.
And actually, something very interesting also what we do in order to differentiate ourselves is we do have our own vine nursery. Like at that time, actually, when all this project started, I was not even born, and we really never talked about that.
Exactly.
But then, 7-8 years ago, we started to talk about that because when they started the winery, my grandfather started. He already had like a very old vineyard. And so then when my father joined him, they had this idea to do the vine selection. So every time we planted a new vineyard, got a new piece of land, planted a vineyard, we always used our own vines. So over the years, we selected something like 32 clones. And now we have planted all of them in a proper vineyard, like a vine nursery that we call actually the perfect vineyard. For one reason, because there are the perfect conditions, and in that vineyard, really, it's gorgeous because the location where it is actually it's like an amphitheater in the middle of the hills, and moreover because it's really like we have all these clones over there. And it's very interesting because actually if you go nowadays to a vine grower and you want to plant a radicchio vineyard, actually you will get from 3 to 4 clones, no more than that. Instead we have like 32, so of course it's good. And another thing which is also very interesting is we did all that because we are just radicchio producers. We produce only radicchio, so we wanted, of course, and we needed to differentiate ourselves from the others in general, from the rest. So our purpose was to give like more aromatic nuances, more complexity to the wines, and to enhance, of course, the characteristics which are typical of this vine variety of radicchio by intensifying them even more, and yet, of course, by maintaining the traditional taste. And moreover, we also use our own yeasts. Maybe that's something which not everyone knows. So what we do is actually over the years we selected from the skins of Barcelona grapes. Barcelona is our late harvested wine, like our premium wine. We selected actually the yeast from the skins of the grapes. And so what we do now is 70% of the production is made by using natural yeasts like bread yeast, and 30% of the production is made by using Barcelona yeast. And so when I was answering you with the word care, maybe it's good if I mention then all the words on which our philosophy is based, which are of course like love for the land, respect, care, tradition, and future. So Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a nice philosophy to maintain throughout your traditions as a family and viticulturist. And those other curiosities are very interesting as well about the yeast. Um, let's see. In terms of sustainability now, Caterina, please explain to the listeners the introduction of Sartarelli Zero.
Yeah, Sartarelli.0, exactly. Sartarelli.0 actually is a project on which we have been working. I mean, this project we have been working on since 2013. Then we decided to present it in April 2020. At the beginning of that month, we were completely in lockdown in Italy, and the entire world was going to be in lockdown because of COVID. And frankly speaking, we used that moment to present it because it was just a perfect moment to let the people understand how big, how important it is to protect our own land, our world, and the entire earth, of course. So in 2020, yes, we let it certify and we got the name .0. .0 means that zero are the residual chemicals that we have both
Correct.
on the grapes and in the
Okay.
wines. So
Okay.
what we do actually is we don't treat the vineyards like with phytopharmaceutical products, but what we do instead is like we treat the vineyards with resistance inducers. So what we do is like when the grapes begin to sprout, we just use resistance inducers, which are advanced technical products and natural extracts, and they are the result of a very long, accurate research process. So during this phase, actually, we spray the vines with the resistance inducers. That they contain herbs, algae, and other elements. For instance, like orange skins, and all these
Interesting.
elements. Yeah, all
Mm-hmm.
these elements actually they have the purpose of simulating a disease attack. And the result, of course, is that we simulate this attack, and the vines actually they think they're going to be attacked really, so they start protecting themselves by themselves without any need of external help. And it would be actually like a natural vaccine,
Correct.
basically.
Yeah. Oh,
And
okay. Understand.
and what is really nice and interesting behind this philosophy is that we don't really treat the vines, but we train the vines to protect themselves because we consider the vine as a living being, which is actually like a human being. It's really a living being with a genetical memory, which is absolutely, if it's stimulated, it's absolutely possible for the vine to protect itself. And I think it's very interesting because it really puts like in a very different way of thinking the concept of land, man, and vine. So and the immune system of the vine itself, of course, improves too. So, but all this actually has been possible. And here we go back to the fact that we're talking about the care. The wine is made in the vineyards and so on, because all this is possible, of course, because the vineyards over the years have always been very well treated. Like you cannot start from one day to the other to say, okay, now we use the resistance inducers, it's gonna work. Not really. It's a very long process, and every year then we got the certification by Weinakademiker, exactly because they usually come December to the winery right before Christmas. They test every single tank, and they make sure that they want to make sure, of course, they want to have the proof that it's .0, the residual chemicals are zero. So of course it's very challenging, but it's very important as well to have it, and especially for the consumer health care. And it's I mean, for the consumer health is
Of
very
course.
important.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying this podcast? There is so much more high-quality wine content available from Mama Jumbo Shrimp. Check out our new wine study maps, our books on Italian wine, including Italian Wine Unplugged, The Jumbo Shrimp Guide to Italian Wine, Sangiovese Lambrusco and Other Stories, and much, much more on our website, mamajumboshrimp.com. Now back to the show.
That's very, it's very challenging, but it's very forward thinking on the behalf of Sartarelli Winery. And it's also preventative care, for the future. So that's nice to hear about the Sartarelli.0. Caterina, we have a question from Jing. Would you mind answering the question off the floor, please?
Yeah, I can do now, or yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I don't see the question. Let's see here. Laika, do you want to just have him say the question out loud?
All right, sure, go ahead. Okay, yeah, so her question is about resistant spray. Do you produce it yourself or do you have a provider for it?
That's a very good question, actually. We have a provider for that. And thanks for the question. What is the name again of the lady? Sorry.
Her name is Jing Wang.
Jing Wen. All right. Thank you very much for it. It's really a very good question. No, we don't produce them by ourselves, but it's a company with which we work, and it's our agronomist that he is a very dedicated university teacher to this process, and he's the one who introduced us to this project and which we strongly believed in. So it's a company which makes them, and they are usually like all elements from all around the world. I mean, we need to stimulate the vine to protect itself by from any kind of sickness. So the elements actually that you also find in these resistance inducers, they come from the primary goods, let's say like that, which come from our region, but also internationally from other countries, of course. I mean, but it's a company, yes, which makes them for us and with which we work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for answering that question and for asking the question. Okay, so let's see here. Caterina, what would you say is the most rewarding part of your job?
so I was thinking like a good question because actually, let's say that if I think two parts. If my father was here and he answered the question, he would have said, of course, which I strongly believe, like when people come to the winery, we let them live an experience to see the reaction in their eyes whenever they taste the wines, and especially for the producer, really like my father, my brother, to be there and see the reaction in their eyes, that the really of people who really enjoy the wines, love the wines, and love the vineyards, love going around and really reliving this experience. I think it's
Nice.
just
Yes.
wonderful. If you really ask me, actually, I think what is very nice is to have the awareness and the consciousness that through our wines, actually, we can make moments of people like precious and unforgettable. And that makes me very proud. And it doesn't have to do really anything with branding or like remembering the brand or the label, not at all, like the bottle. No, it's not like that. It's something beyond that, like above that. I think it's really very wonderful. I mean, to think that you can make special someone else's moments. It can either be like a family party or like a party for, a son graduating a university, or welcoming a new baby, or welcoming someone back home, or just thinking that you are there with them, that through your work, because maybe the wine is very good, and then you were able through your partner to sell the wine to the specific shop in the US, or it can either be in New York or in Connecticut, or like on the West Coast in Washington State, or in Japan. Sure. You think that someone goes to the shop and asks the consultant, would you mind to give me a good wine for my party? And then the consultant says, okay, you can grab like a bottle of Sartarelli wine and any other wine.
Perfect.
That's something I think which really makes me proud, especially because wine is of course, economically speaking, we have to call it like a commodity, but wine is something more. Wine is a trait d'union, is really like an element which unites people. You see, like anywhere around the world, whenever you have a meeting, you have a topic to discuss, or you also just have an argument with someone. At the end of that, you just say, let's go and let's get a glass of wine. And that's what I mean, actually, because really, like, wine is able to unite people. And what's really interesting, it's able to unite people from all different cultures, different places, different ages. You see also right now with wine with the zero alcohol content, really wine is something which can unify everyone and everything. So I think it's related to the fact that it's the power of wine. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you. That was a wonderful answer. And that's very rewarding to hear that rewarding part of your job. And what it all comes down to is people enjoying wine and uniting together. That's very nice. So let's see here. Next question I have is for you to please describe your best-selling wines on the local, national, and international markets. And can you talk to us about the Ethel Cafe as well?
Yeah. So as you know, we have 5 wines, and now we have a 6th one
Mm-hmm.
because exactly it's our 50th anniversary. So we introduced,
Exactly.
as you were saying, the new wine. Let's say 3 of our wines, which are really the ones which are part of our core production and which are very good key wines and selling wines actually a little bit everywhere, which are like Sartarelli Classico, Pralivio, and Balciana. Then depending, of course, on the taste, depending on many different situations, like Sartarelli Classico, which is a basic wine, of course, which is the most representative wine that we have. Is a typical expression. Verdicchio is a very immediate wine, very easy to drink, very versatile, and then it's also very approachable actually. And this is just the result of the harvest that we carry out in our youngest vineyards. This
Mm-hmm.
wine, for instance, goes very well, especially in the US. In the US and Japan, it's very good wine because it's very
Okay.
immediate, it's very there. Then we have, for instance, like Trelivio, which is the result of the selection of the best grapes that we carry out in our oldest vineyards, but also the best ones. And Trelivio comes from Latin, like it's typical to have in Italy the wines called after the name of the areas where the grapes
Sure.
for that wine come from. So it means in between the olive trees, and Trelivio comes exactly, the oldest vineyard is exactly located in this area called Trelivio, 50 years old. And that wine, for instance, goes very well in Norway, like in Ireland, in some European countries, in Italy, but also in the states, in particular states of the US, like Texas, Florida, or like on the east coast of Canada. So yeah. And then Balciana, which is actually our proud trademark, because if we are here today as a winery as Sartarelli, we really must say thank you to Balciana, because Balciana is the wine which changed a little bit our story, of course, but also I think the story of Verdicchio in general. And because Balciana is a wine which got a very important award back in 1999 with the 1997 vintage, and it was at the International Wine Challenge in London, and it got both the Italian White Wine Trophy and the White Wine Trophy, which is at that time it would be like the best white wine of the world. And it was really important for us, but for the entire region area, because actually it was the first time that Verdicchio hit the international scene. And this wine, Balciana, is very well known. Sometimes I must say that Balciana is even more well known than Sartarelli itself. Balciana seems to be like, Sartarelli and then Balciana. Like it's quite interesting also how I developed all that. And so I think like these are the 3 wines that we focus mostly on. And then of course there is a sparkling wine, and each one of them has very different characteristics. I think also it's very interesting about our production is that it's all made of Verdicchio, 100% Verdicchio, same making process for all the wines, stainless steel tanks. And yet, just because all the vineyards are made of smaller pairs of smaller plots, different exposures to the sun, we can make totally different wines in between each other. And so it's really interesting also to see how versatile this wine variety can be and how versatile Verdicchio can be. So even if, as I was saying before at the very beginning, like Verdicchio was definitely an undervalued vine variety, especially in the beginning, then with the passing of time things have changed. Verdicchio has so many characteristics which are not very well known and which are just great. When you were talking about ethyl caffeate, for instance, there was a very important research and analysis which was carried out a few years ago. It was 2003 by the Department of Nutrition Sciences at the University in Ancona. And they found out actually that in Verdicchio there is a very high concentration of ethyl caffeate. Ethyl caffeate is an active ingredient which has amazing natural phenolic antioxidant properties, and ethyl caffeate is actually able to prevent any kind of liver disease or, like, for instance, hepatic fibrosis. And that means actually, and moreover, what is very important to say is that you can find ethyl caffeate usually in red wines, but not in white wine. So the only white wine worldwide where you can find ethyl caffeate in is exactly Verdicchio. So that means actually if you use Verdicchio, if you drink Verdicchio during the day and it's part of your daily diet, of course, it's a guarantee for good health. And we know also that for sure the caffeine is also able to slow down the aging process of our cells, besides resveratrol. And so that means also if you make good use of the caffeine, always of course in a moderate way, because balance, as the Latins used to say, medius sat virtus, so balance, it means that you have a longer life expectancy. And if you consider that the Marche region is together with Sardinia and Italy among the regions which have the longest life expectancy, and if you think that Italy is the country of Europe with the longest life expectancy, it goes by itself that if you drink Verdicchio, you must stay in a moderate way. You must stay young and healthy, of course.
Getting back to when you were talking about Verdicchio as one of the oldest native grapes, the autochthonous grapes in Italy, that's very important as well, that they're, I think coming up with climate change and having this direction going with the native grapes as well says a lot. So really interesting. Thank you for that
Thank
answer.
you. Sorry that I lost you, really.
That's okay. I'm here. Okay, so let's see here. Caterina, how about, now let's talk a little bit about the museum. And where did the idea of the museum come from and why?
That was my idea. Sorry, I don't want
Okay,
to
here we go.
take too much credit, but it was my idea because we started this construction work. So we wanted to do actually, we wanted to do a very nice shop and like a welcoming room for people when they come, especially because we want to welcome people to let them live an experience like our partners. And then that's why I had the idea of having this museum, because I thought there were many. It was also important actually because we just make Verdicchio, as I was saying, and we wanted really to pay tribute to this variety to which we owe a lot. So that's the one reason. Of course, Verdicchio has always been at the heart of our production. So we owe a lot to this extraordinary vine variety. So that's why the idea of Verdicchio. But moreover, and last but not least, actually, is that there were so many false stories, which I also thought they were true, but which were not really, about Verdicchio. So this is why then the idea of having this museum called In Verdicchio Veritas. And it's called In Verdicchio Veritas not because we wanted to copy the famous sentence quote by the Latins, by the Romans,
Correct.
like In Vino Veritas,
Right,
but
right.
just, but just to say that we really found out the truth of Verdicchio. And we're very happy because who helped us on all this and who strongly believed in this project is Professor Ceccarelli, that unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. And he used to be the most important and valuable historian of our region. He wrote so many books about the Marche region traditions and about Verdicchio. So, for instance, one of the many stories which was false actually was about the King Alaric. Like there was a sack of Rome back in 410 Annus Domini, and after the sack of Rome, actually, he came to the Marche region to get, that's what you can find proofs in the books, actually, that he came to the Marche region to get a white wine because it was to give power back, strength back to the troops. It's true, he came here, he got the white wine, but from there to say that it was Verdicchio, it's quite, it's not correct because no one knows if it was Verdicchio at that time. For sure, there was white wine made in the region. For sure, during the Middle Age, we had the monks, of course, who used to make a lot of wines in the monasteries. So that's absolutely true. But we don't know really if it was Verdicchio. What we can say actually, and that's what we found out, that the first time that Verdicchio was mentioned in a book was in 1557, and it was in a translation of a Spanish essay about agriculture, which is Libro de Agricultura, and it was written by Mambrino. So it was the first time that he really talked about Verdicchio as a vine variety and recognized as such. And then what we found out, for instance, that there is for sure a genetic similarity to Trebbiano di Soave, because our region was hit by a very bad plague back in the 15th century. So in 1470, what happened is the community Yezi, they invited the Longobards, so from Lombardy and Veneto, to come and repopulate the area. And in order to convince them to do that, of course, they gave them land for free, because in our area population was gone. Most of the people had already died. So they came, they repopulated the area, and that's when there was this exchange between Trebbiano di Soave and Verdicchio. There
Okay.
were many theories, but most probably it was Verdicchio that from here was brought to that area by the Longobards. And really, there were proofs, there were researches done. So genetically speaking, they are the same. They're really very close to each other. But then it's very interesting to see how two different vines, like being cultivated in different areas, different microclimate conditions, different soils, and then they developed in such a different way that we now have two indigenous vines, but like in very different areas. So that's quite interesting. That's what we found out.
Okay, wonderful.
And
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, here let me move on to another question, please. And this is a fantastic. I can't wait to hear this story. This year is Sartarelli's 50th anniversary. What do you have planned?
Yeah, this is our 50th anniversary exactly. Actually, what we planned this year, first of all, we did a new wine.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this exceptional new wine called Milleta. It's actually a Reserva wine, so something in the middle between
Okay,
Favigno and Barcelona. And
nice.
and it's what we did actually this year is we invited like in different groups, like our partners from different countries that came to visit us, and that's what we would like to continue to do also next year. And I think they like my family still would like to do something in December, like about Milleta, to talk more about this wine, like something surprise, which I'm not sure aware
Oh,
of yet,
beautiful.
but
Okay.
it's gonna be a surprise for me as well, I think. And and yeah, so the wine itself, actually, Milleta for me is just yeah, it has a very big, profound meaning, because actually Mileta was exactly my grandmother, so my grandfather's wife, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime that you read the story about Sartarelli, you always find the name Matilde. You never find the name Mileta. Why?
Okay.
Because her name was Matilde, but then she
Mm-hmm.
was actually in the family, like she had a nickname which was Mileta. There was like a very sad story behind that, but anyway, she was called after the name of one of her aunts who had an accident. So like as a tribute to her, like they called her Matilde, but then they could now make it to call her Matilde in the family. So that's when they started to call her Mileta, and that was the nickname in the family. So I thought it was important to give the identity back to my grandmother, who was really like a key figure in the family, and like an exceptional woman, really like yeah, really wonderful woman. So that's why, and it's the first time that we have a name of the wine called after, I mean, the wine called after the name of someone in the family. But I really thought it was important, especially because I love numbers, as you can think, of course, economics.
Mm-hmm. Of
So
course.
Caterina is eight letters, my father Patrizio is 8 letters, and Classico, Tralev, and Balciana, they all have 8 letters. So Mileta was just perfect. And plus, anywhere around the world you can say correctly, like Mileta is easy and it sounds very good. It's very sweet, and it's like an astonishing wine as well. And yeah, so that's we wanted to plan actually also like a big party, but because of COVID we're not 100% sure. And then yeah, so we said, okay, we do like smaller parties. That's what we do. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's a wonderful story and a beautiful name, Mileta. And that really came full circle by celebrating her on the 50th anniversary. That's very nice. Okay, moving on. Caterina, I'm coming to a question on climate change here. What are some of your deeper concerns of today's climate change for your winery? And are you taking a proactive or reactive approach?
Actually, that's a very good and actual question. We actually take a proactive approach. You cannot
Okay,
have a reactive approach because it would just be too late.
correct.
So what we do actually, three things, three different stories. First of all, like on older vines, when we have like older vines, like the already existing vines, We use a drag harrow, like this special tool which is used that we use actually for breaking up and smoothing out the surface of the soil.
Okay.
And it goes down actually to 9.50 inches. And for instance, we're already done now. I mean, just finished the harvest, we're already done it. And it's
Okay.
actually a machine which breaks the surface of the soil. And it's important because whenever it rains, actually, what it happens is that the rain can really go through into the soil. And, when it's too dry, then if it rains and then the water would just be going away. Instead, in this way, the water really goes into the soil. And so, like, the soil is ready to get all the water without wasting any single drop.
Okay.
And that's very important because the problem with the climate change is the lack of water. So many people
Yes.
ask us, of course, like, are you able to water in the vineyards? No, we're not, because it's not possible. It's not allowed, because if people miss water for drinking, of course, you can think that it goes by itself. We cannot use water for the vineyards. Of course, we must find other
Okay.
ways.
Mm-hmm.
Another way also for the new vines, actually, what we do is, like, whenever we plant the vines, we must have the roots going deeper in the soil.
Okay.
So we go down actually with longer rootstocks, and in this way, like, the roots have a much higher chance to find water in the soil. And of course, depending on the vineyards, we use different rootstocks. For instance, we have one vineyard, Barcelona vineyard, the late harvest wine, which has a very, very good water reserve. So no matter what, of course, we don't need special rootstocks to bring the roots down, to go deep down, because it's already good water reserve. There are other vineyards where we have to have uh, American rootstocks, but also other rootstocks depending on the condition of the soil, to have the roots going down exactly to find water, especially in summer when there would be a lack of water, when there is the drought as we had last summer, for sure, for instance.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And moreover, also what we do, actually, it's not the best, but we have to prevent also the vines, just in case they don't really make it with the roots to find the water, is to trim, to limit a little bit the production per each vine, so to have it
Okay.
under control.
Mm-hmm.
Our purpose is always to have, of course, a very good quality, but also a good amount on the vines, which is possible. But
Right.
we have to take it, I mean, to really have it under control. An exception, that's my father keeps saying that all the time, it's true, actually. That's a very good curiosity. The exception is our 50-year-old vineyard. The one of Tralivio, which is really 50 years old, as old as the winery. It's still the only vineyard which has caused us, I mean, no vineyard causes us problems. Let's say that the lack of water has caused no problems to this vineyard. It's still the most productive one, the most beautiful vineyard we have. And there is also like a little earth side on this vineyard, but we cannot touch it. We must stay like that because it's quite an exception. So,
Oh, that's wonderful. The old vines are like the old men on the hill. They can go the distance. They can withstand time. And with the waters, that sounds like that's what's happening there with your old vineyards.
yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I have one more question if we have time, and that is, what for you is the most important factor needed to maintain a successful family winery?
I'm also asking myself again. I think is to have respect of the tradition of who came before you, of the work which was done, in this case for me, for sure, for my brother, by my grandfather and by my father, who's still young and in business, of course, but to have the respect for the land, for the tradition, and yet to be able to look into the future, still respecting tradition. Try to be innovative, to think, to have new ideas, and of course, I think, like, to understand also the characteristics, like in a regular, in any other company, to understand characteristics of each member of the team, to enhance their characteristics in order to have everyone work together for the same purpose, to respect actually the passion of everyone and human dignity. And I think it's much more than just work. It's about passion, it's about commitment, it's about love, what you do. And but of course, family business, ideally it's wonderful, but it's not like in a movie, it's also reality. So sometimes it can also be, I'm a very frank, open person. It can also be hard because it's your family. So sometimes you don't have to take it too personal. You must really be able in your brain to divide the two things. So it's really wonderful, but there are also days which might be difficult. So I think it's very nice, but it's also challenging sometimes. So the most important factor behind that is anyway passion and love and respect. Yeah, I think these are the three elements which are the most important ones. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Those are the elements that you've been carrying through this whole interview. And I really appreciate your coherency here. And you can see that within your family. Because sometimes it's not always the case where, the family members will want to continue on in the family business or the family winery. So it sounds like you've just all been, raised in a very special way and are keeping these traditions going. That's really what drew me to this interview and your family. So congratulations. And if we have some more questions from the floor, I think we could bring them up now, Laika, possibly, or Joy.
Hold a second, owner's question. So he was asking, his question is, Vertical wines can go wrong so easily. He's curious about your wine, whether it has sufficient acidity and freshness. So I guess that's it. Do you want to answer? Okay.
Yeah. You mean, should I answer? Yeah. I mean,
Sure.
our wines have, like they have like a very good acidity, and the alcohol content is always very high. We usually start from 13%. And exactly as I was saying, like in the past, of course, not Vertical was not very well known as a quality wine, but I think also with the passage of time, like producers in our region realized really how precious it can be, how versatile this wine variety can be, and how much good potential this wine variety can have. So yes, definitely our wines have this freshness, but there is a very interesting something to say about our wines and Vertical wines in general is that they really have very good aging capacity as well. And I'm pointing out all the fact of that they have a very good aging capacity because recently, like last month, we released in a couple of states, like of countries, older vintages of Trelivio. We are talking about 2011, 2012, 13, and it was a great success actually, and still is, because we noticed that this wine and like other wines for sure in general, like they don't, of our production, they don't lose the freshness. Also, when they develop, they age, they still keep this kind of freshness, which is quite astonishing. So I think actually the good quality of a wine you can really see like in a couple of years, like in a good amount of years from now. And definitely, yeah, Vertical has a very good aging capacity. And yeah. I hope I answered the question.
Any other questions?
I guess that's it. So yeah, thanks.
So I just wanted to say something though before we end. Laika, what is our next Clubhouse?
All right, so our next Clubhouse is going to be on the 3rd of November. That's going to be at 6 p.m. Italian time zone. That's Kevin De Lucente. You will be interviewing Pierluigi Travaglini from Tenute Marta Rosa. So see you there for those who are free. Thank you.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming on to Clubhouse. Joan, thank you for interviewing. Caterina, thank you so much for your
Thank you
time.
very
And
much.
it was a wonderful interview. And
Okay.
I wish you both a wonderful weekend as well.
Thank you very much. And to you too. Happy Halloween.
Oh
Bye.
gosh, I forgot about that. Yes, happy Halloween.
Yeah. Ciao, everyone. Bye. Okay.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much indeed. Thank you. Have a
Take
good
care.
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
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 Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, chin chin.